Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah. Today we are going to be talking about all things Huda Beauty in terms of the eyeshadow palettes that I personally have in my eyeshadow palette collection. So this is my Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette family. There is one that has just been released that I would like to get at some point from the Brown Obsession series. I would like to get the chocolate browns, but that one is currently not even, like, I haven't even bought it yet, but that's definitely one that's on the wish list. And as you can see, I've got quite a few of her palettes, mainly the smaller palettes, not so much the bigger ones, because the bigger ones don't always have color stories that appeal to me. For instance, her first rose gold textured palette, what's in the name, those textured shadows were exactly the reason why I didn't want to get it. And she also insists on doing quite a lot of pressed glitters in a lot of these larger palettes. And in the new Nude there are 2 pressed glitters and a cream base shade, which is too dark for me because, as you can see, I'm very fair. So that I knew wasn't going to work, so I decided to buy something differently to sort of make my own new nude, as you will see in a minute. And the last one that she came out with, the Naughty Nude, is just, it's a little bit deep for my complexion, even though those reddish tones look really nice. It has that really weird eye gloss ball texture shadow that just kind of like, ugh. And I'm just not a fan of creams and powders in the same palette. So that's how I sort of ended up with this. So as you can see, I've got 2 of her larger palettes, 1 of the original line of Obsessions palettes, 3 of the Gemstone Obsessions, 1 of the Neon Obsessions, 1 of the Pastels, 2 of the Nude Obsessions, and all 3 of the Haze Obsessions palettes. And as I already mentioned, I hope to get the chocolate browns from the Brown Obsessions. So I definitely sort of pick and choose from the line what I feel is right. I definitely don't buy every single palette, even though these kind of have that Pokemon kind of gotta catch them all kind of vibe to them. I definitely do pick and choose. So let me start with my first Huda Beauty purchase, and it was actually this one here in the back, and that was the Desert Dusk. So this is the first Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette I ever bought. I think the image in the front is just stunning with that sort of like shimmer around her eyes and the way this palette just shines as you move it in the light. I like how that sort of, I like that kind of vibe. I still have the little protector here as well because these shadows can be quite powdery. But yeah, this is what the palette looks like. I have used this quite a bit, and every single time I use this palette, I find different things that I can do with this, which is what I love so much about it. It only has 1 pressed glitter, which is why when I decided to try some Huda Beauty, this was the one I wanted to go with, also because it has the purples, but it only has 1 pressed glitter, whereas I think the other palettes that were out at that time had like 3 or 4, and that's just not my jam. So I was like, I can deal with 1 pressed glitter. And in terms of pressed glitter, these really aren't too offensive. Like, these are not bad pressed glitters by any means. However, I don't use this a whole lot. Like, this is the shade I kind of ignore. And in an 18 pan palette to have 1 shade you don't love, I'm okay with. But if there's like more than that with how expensive these are, I just feel that the price point doesn't weigh up to it, which is why I never bought the new Nude. Because I just felt that if there are 3 shades that I already know from the get-go that I'm not going to use, and these retailing for 65 euros, is it 60 or 65? I don't remember. But paying that much money for an eyeshadow palette then to me isn't going to be worth it. Then I want to be able to get as much use out of every single shade as possible. And of course, in this palette, everybody always looks at this side of the palette whenever they talk about it, I find. However, I have found through using it that my favorite bit is actually the very, very light neutrals over on this side of the palette, and then a sprinkling of the warmth. And that's where I feel this palette really shines. It's incredibly versatile. You've got some cool tone neutrals. Cool tones. You know how I feel about cool tones. If you've watched my channel before, I love a good cool toned eyeshadow, and Musk is a really stunning, it's not quite a taupe, but it's a very nice cool toned light brown that works really well in my crease. And then Cashmere all over the lid is just the perfect, like, just 2 eyeshadows and you're done kind of eye look. I really, really love those 2 shadows for like a quick and easy everyday makeup look. So you've got that down in this palette. And if you would like some variety in that look, you can pull in this gold or that lighter gold or this peachy shade, and that way you can have endless variations on like a basic everyday eye look. You can use this as a blend shade. If you want a more warm tone crease shade that's a bit lighter, you've got Eden over here. So I feel that this side of the palette really gives you those really basic shades that if you work in an office or you go to school and you don't want to go too all out, this palette has got you covered. But then if we move on further to the right in the palette, we have these really, really saturated warm tones. And you all know that I'm not a huge lover of warm tones, but this palette gets my heartbeat just a little bit faster every time I look at it. Certainly this orange in the bottom, you can probably tell from what it looks like. I've mainly only swatched it. I don't use a shade this orange on my lids, but these two reddish tones in the bottom, and then that yummy coppery shimmer, really, really nice. So if I want to go for something really sultry and just really sexy almost, then especially those three shades in the top make for such a great, like really warm tone smoky eye. I love it. And then if you pull in some of these purples and topper shades, you really have the juxtaposition of the warmth with the purples, which is where this palette really makes like where it comes in just a bit more unique than most other palettes. That's where the Desert Dusk for me really, really comes to shine, because this palette is just named perfectly. Because these really are the tones that you sort of see in a desert at like dusk. So I think that that's very rightly done. But just the warmth with the purples in the fall time, this is one of my favorite palettes to reach for. And as I said, you have your very basic shades in here as well. So I'm just going to be swatching some of my favorites, because that's what I like to do in these videos. So I'm definitely gonna swatch Cashmere for you, because this is like, it's a taupe, but it's like a more of like a champagne-y kind of taupe. So I really like that. And then we have Blood Moon. Like, I love the shimmers in here, and also Turkish Delight. Those I always talk about also when I do other eyeshadow palette videos. These are so smooth, so buttery, easy to blend, and these are just really, really yummy. I also really like Amber and Oud, which are two really nice mattes. These mattes are a bit on the drier side, I have to say, so they don't swatch the best. And then I also like Saffron, which is right there. And then I really like Amethyst, but Amethyst is one of those purples that just doesn't swatch really well, but when you get this on the eye, it does work really lovely. Like, it looks like nothing in a swatch, but with a blending brush, it's really easy to build up, and then if you just top it up with a bit of Twilight, I mean, isn't that just stunning? And let me, just for completion's sake, swatch Musk as well, because that's like my other favorite matte, and that's just, it's just such a yummy color story, and I wish more people were talking about this, because this is just one of my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes. That's for sure. The other larger palette is one that I got a little bit more recently. I bought this around the summertime of 2020, and it's the Mercury Retrograde, and I held off of buying this, as I've mentioned before, because this was released for Christmas 2019, and I was like, I don't need that. But come spring summer last year, I was really like, that would be a great spring summer palette. And what I have found is that this is a perfect palette for fairer skin tones, because if you cover these two up, you can just see that the palette doesn't go very deep, and I really appreciate it. Your eye is drawn into these four shades at the top because they are brighter, but actually like these two shimmers in the middle is where this palette is at. Like a lot of the shimmers in here have something a little bit more going for it, and the way I like to use this palette, at least that's what I found out as I started using these shades, like if I wanted to put looks together, thinking of them in like three sets of 6, so sextets. If you're to use it like that, that's what I did when I did looks for this palette. You really get just 3 really well-rounded looks, I found. You get something neutral with a pop of blue-green, you get something like warm peachy with the juxtaposition of the purples, and then you just have a nice rosy toned look in this side of the palette. However, you can of course bounce around and mix and match to your heart's desire with this one as well. So some of the shades that I love in this the most are this lavendery kind of shade, and then this one here, and especially that peachy shade, because I'm not sure if you can see that. So I'm not sure if you can see, but that peachy shade has a bit of a shift. So that's really, really pretty. Oh yeah, now you can see, like, do you just see that it has depth and then it has that pinky flash? It's really, really stunning. And that like champagne-y rose gold, that has my name written all over it. So yeah, the Mercury Retrograde is just really, really lovely. These shimmers are so soft and so metallic and yummy. I also like these top 4 shades for sure. They make for a nice little pop of an accent color for sure. But I just love how it has rosy tones. It's got the neutrals and some pops of colors. Yeah, this is one of my favorite, more neutral eyeshadow palette with a pop of color, that's for sure. Alright, so now we're moving on to the mini palettes, and I definitely have most of those. The first one I got is Electric Obsessions, and this is the only one of the original Obsessions line that I bought. None of them really appealed to me. I know a lot of people like the Mauve Obsessions one, but that I felt was a bit too deep for me, really. The only one from this line that I'm still interested in is the Smoky Obsessions, but that was discontinued real quickly and I missed out on it, so that's a bit of a shame. But inside of this one, you get a rainbow color story. And is this the best rainbow palette ever? No, but I do appreciate how it has 3 shimmers, which a lot of rainbow palettes don't have. And it has, say it with me, if you've seen this, if you've seen my videos before, I love teals. And this palette just gets to stay because this teal is just really, really good. And it goes surprisingly well with some of the shades that this palette has going, because it makes for a nice bit of depth with like the blues and the purples that are in here. You can put it with, like, if you blend it together with the pink, it becomes more of a purple matte as well. So I find that that is the shade that really makes the palette for me. I could have probably done without the red, and the fact that it has 2 different kinds of essentially pink shades on my skin tone. Like, I'm pretty sure this is meant to be like a violet, purpley kind of shade, but on me it pulls pink, so I could have done with something a little bit more differently in that area. So yeah, is it perfect? By no means, but this palette just has a couple of things that I really enjoy. Of the 3 gemstones palettes that I have, I definitely went for the color stories that I knew I was going to prefer. So we've got the blue, the green, and the purple, because those are, if I go for color, blue, green, and purple is where it's at for me. So Sapphire, Emerald, and Amethyst Obsessions. Of the 3, the Sapphire Obsession is the weakest in terms of quality. I do like how, by the way, how the gemstone shows all of the shades that you get in the palette. I do think that's clever. Because this shade at the bottom is just a bit of a dud. However, again, I really appreciate that you get some like true blues and navies, and then you get some more like aqua kind of shades. So in terms for a full blue spectrum in just 9 pans, I think they did a good job. However, this navy, yeah, it does feel quite creamy, but it just didn't pull as navy on me. Like, it's a bit brighter once you apply it than it looks in the pan. So for me, this just wasn't perfect. But again, it's got some stunning shimmers in here, and that's really what I keep it around for. So this, in terms of quality, wasn't the best, but I do really appreciate the color story that you got in here. And then we have the Emerald Obsessions. This is my favorite of the 3, because in terms of quality, this was simply the best one. You get a full array of greens, and I love how you can make this brighter if you pull in the mint, or you can make this very murky and just a little bit more grungy with these like cocky olivey kind of shades. Again, some really stunning shimmers in here. Like that emerald green is just, this is like a really deep foresty green kind of shade. And that is just stunning. It's also a little, do you just see how much gray that has? So it is a little bit more cool toned leaning, whereas I feel that a lot of the times if palettes have grungier green tones, they lean a bit more olive toned, like these 2 at the bottom. So again, I feel that for just 9 pans, you really get a full spectrum of greens that a lot of other palettes do. And then we have the Amethyst Obsessions. And this is good in terms of quality, but here I find the color story to be a bit lacking because these two shades pull the same on my eyes. They're just mauves. And this is also not as purple as it could have been. I feel that this was really released at a time when we got purple palettes that weren't really purple palettes. Think of the ColourPop It's My Pleasure, and this one as well. And of course the ColourPop It's My Pleasure was sort of inspired by this one. So I can see where they're coming from with that. But I wish there was just, instead of these two, if this had a brighter matte purple to go with this, more like a royal purple, I would have felt this palette would have been a lot more complete. Plus this lighter shimmer is just, it's not as purpley as it could have been. If this had been more lilac, it would have worked better. It's just overall a little bit more warm toned purple, and I prefer a cooler toned purple. That's just me, but yeah, it does this shade in the middle. This is really stunning. So I really like that. It has a little bit of a shift. It's yummy. And then we get to the next tier down. So those are some of the next ones that I bought. So I only got one of the Neon Obsessions. I felt that the color stories in the Neon Obsessions line just were overlapping quite a bit. So I felt that the Pink Obsessions was a lot of pinks, and then the Green Obsession, the neon green one, had some shades that I was like, why is that even neon? So I felt that the Orange Obsessions palette had some of the pink tones, as well as that highlighter yellow shade that you would expect in a neon green palette, and then you get these like orangey tones as well. So I felt that this did what all three palettes had to offer, but then in 9 pans. And I love wearing this one in the summertime. This is just popsicle eyeshadow. It just reminds me of like creamsicles and popsicles and like that sort of like really vibrant, like watermelon-y kind of shades. Is this my favorite one? By no means. I mean, it's pretty, but again, I think I would have liked another shimmer in here because you get 3. I think that if either this one or this one would have been a shimmer, I would have liked it even more. But that's just me. Yeah, it makes for a really nice like watermelon-y popsicle kind of look. And I do really like this pink shimmer over here. So let me swatch that. So that's really pretty. Then same thing for the pastels. I only bought the lilac. The rose one I still am looking at, but it has that random yellow in there. And I just thought, like, the way these all work for me is that if you have a few of these, like what I have going on here, especially in these later lines, like between the nudes, the hazes, and the pastels, I feel that you can very easily like mix and match these. So it's almost as if, for instance, if I were to put these 3 together, I've got a really good purple palette. If I were to put these 2 together, I've got a really good green palette. So I think that these just really sort of like combine very well as well. And this I think goes really well with the nude light, but also with the sand haze and the purple haze. I was skeptical about this because I didn't hear lots of rave reviews about these. And now that I've tried it, and this is one of the reasons why I'm like, do I still want to get the rose one? I have found that this is light, and that's why people don't like it. They don't like it because of the quality. They like it because it doesn't show up on them because it's so fair. But I am very fair toned, and even though I don't always like going for something very light and neutral, as you will see in a minute, I do really appreciate this one for that. I had no issues with these shades showing up on me. This lilac shimmer, and also, I can't reach it. And also that lavendery one that's right next to it. These are stunning. And these worked so well on me. Like, they look like nothing in a swatch, but these foiled and build up so nicely on me. And because they are just so fair, if you have anything deeper than an NC NW20 at MAC, I don't think you can make this work. Maybe if you use a very light eyeshadow base and really stamp it on, it might look distinct enough. But on me, this was just a really pretty spring-like look. It was just so fun to use this, so I was very happy with that one. Then we have the Nude Light and the Nude Rich Obsession. And the reason why I bought these 2 is because this, I actually saw Jen Phelps swatch these palettes against the new Nude, and there's just a lot of overlap with what the new Nude has to offer. And buying 2 of these is cheaper than buying the new Nude, so that's why I bought both of these. And I ended up liking the Nude Light, but the Nude Rich has to be my favorite. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So do you just see that this has very similar shades, especially because of that lavendery shade, as the Pastel Lilac? So that's why I feel they combine very well. But this is just, if you're fair and you struggle with eyeshadow palettes being a little on the deeper end for you, I mean, that was definitely my pet peeve with a lot of neutral eyeshadows for a long time, is that just everything I did was turning into a smoky eye. And, you know, I do like a good smoky eye, but not, sometimes I just want something really basic and something that's not too deep, and this palette gives me that. It also leans a little bit more cool toned, say for the bottom row. Like if you were to leave these 3 out, then you just see that this is quite rosy pink lavender. This shade right here, oh, so buttery smooth. This is like rose gold perfection. And I love rose golds, so that this palette I knew I had to get, but I was very much umming and ahhing about this one at the time, and I ended up buying it, as I mentioned, because Jen Phelps put the 2 of them together up against the new Nude, and together they really made a good dupe. The reason why I like this is, even though it's not aimed at my skin tone, it has that pinky red undertone. And that's why it works on me, because I have a cooler undertone. And again, this is not super warm, whereas the medium one that's in between this is incredibly warm. It's very orange leaning, whereas this, for a darker palette, has that reddish undertone. So this shade here and also this shade here, those are my 2 favorites. And I really like using these together so that if I want to get, let me clean my fingers first before I smear eyeshadow everywhere. So that's what those look swatched. And I just feel that these 2 combined just really make for a stunning look. Like, I really like using some of the mattes, especially this matte in the middle and that one at the top, are perfect to bring a little bit more depth to this. This is a perfect liner shade on me. And then some of those shimmers are really nice as well. This works great on the lower lash line. Perhaps the 2 at the bottom don't really go with my complexion, but I just feel that having both of these gives me a little bit more versatility. Now, last but not least, the Haze Obsessions, and you will see me reviewing these as well as the Pastels very soon in my 10 palette review, because I just tried these in the past couple of months. Now, why did I buy all 3 of these? I was initially only going to get the purple and the khaki, because those I felt got the biggest rave reviews. But I saw, who was it? Amanda from Makeup Just for Fun, do like her flat lays that she does on her Instagram, and she featured this palette together with these 2, and I feel that this is what should have been the medium Obsessions palette for me. So that's why I got it, because it's got those reddish tones, it's got a bit of the warmth, but then it has, say it with me, a taupey shade, and we all know how I feel about taupes. It is a more warm tone taupe. It's more like a bronzy taupe shade with a bit of pink. It's just super unique, and I think that this sits really well in between these 2. That's the way that works for me. It sort of bridges the gap, and again, this just has some lovely shades. I was able to pull some stunning looks out of this, so I really do not regret buying this. Let me just show you how perfectly these go together. Like, I wish this was promoted as part of the Nude Obsessions line. Do you just see how they make the perfect little family? These didn't exactly get rave reviews, especially the purple. I feel a lot of people weren't happy with because it wasn't that purple. But then I'm like, you can look at a color story online when these are launched, right? And you can see that it essentially only has 3 purples. So then I don't understand why people are giving it such a bad review, because it's called the Purple Haze, not the Purple palette. You know, it's supposed to give you this very diffused look. It has a very similar shade to what you find in the Mercury Retrograde. And that's something that I love. It's got that peachy shimmer. a little bit more red toned, even perhaps a bit more vibrant. You can do a full-on purple look if you'd like to. This is also a bit more purple leaning, but you can pull in like a very nice neutral look for every day. You can amp it up a little bit. So I was very happy with this one. And then lastly, I have the Khaki Obsessions, and this got the same comments as the purple one, that it wasn't very green toned. Again, you essentially get 3 green tones in the middle, and then that brown, like this darker shade, it's not as green as many people would have liked. It looks more green toned in the pan than it does once you swatch it. However, you can do a full-on Khaki green look if you'd like to. That's for sure. Again, it's not, like, it's a bit more intense. Perhaps it's a bit deeper than the rest. You get some warmth in here. This shimmer here is just stunning. And these shimmers, I find, are very similar to the ones that you get in the Mercury Retrograde. They just have, look at that shine. Like, I don't know why people don't like these. Like, these got so much slack. Am I saying no? They got flack. You cut slack and you get flack. I always mix those up. But these two, like these 3, there's a reason why I bought all 3, and I don't understand why people didn't like these, because I really like mine. I think they have great quality, very consistent with what Huda Beauty has going on in the other parts of her collection. I understand that color story-wise, people want different things from this. However, they are exactly what I like in an eyeshadow, which is a more diffused, buildable, not like boom pigment and you're done that you need to blend for days. And that seems to be what most people, at least I follow on YouTube and Instagram, seem to prefer. And I am just someone who really likes to be able to build my shadows. I don't mind having to foil them or using my finger to intensify the shimmer. I don't mind having to do those things, and especially these are called haze palettes. I mean, just look at the name, because that's exactly what you get. You don't get a full-on Khaki palette, but you get a neutral palette with a touch of Khaki, which if I think of Khaki haze, that's exactly what I would expect to get. So yeah, that's it for me for my Huda Beauty palette family overview. Like I said, I would like to get that Chocolate Browns palette. That's for sure. I think it's going to go really well with everything else I have going on. And it's going to be another one that if you just, I think if I have that and then put the Nude Rich together with that, that's going to be yummy. I think it will go well with the purple as well. I can like see it working with everything else I've got going on. So yeah, these are great for mixing and matching if you have the mini palettes. The larger palettes are really lovely too, but for me, my love for Huda Beauty really goes into her mini palettes, because I just think they're clever. They work really well for me. They give you some interesting shades. And yeah, like I said, if you have a few of these, you can very easily mix and match. So you can be your own little artist, which I love. And I really like the formula on these as well. Like, it's buttery, it's smooth. It's got good pigmentation. It really does. But it is more of a buildable formula, which is what you have to like. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 3 new videos a week. My next one will be my cheek declutter. So if you'd like to see me declutter my bronzers, blushes, and highlighters, then please stay tuned. But yeah, I will be coming to you with another video where you see my face on camera soon as well, because on Sunday we're going to do a full face of Milani on this channel. So lots more content coming your way. I really hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and then I would like to see you in my next video. Bye bye!